Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ink Gamers podcast. I'm Peter Parrish. I'm joined by other podcasters. They are Paul Younger.
Good evening.
And Tim McDonald. Hello, Tim
Good
McDonald.
evening. Welcome to the Ink Gamers podcast. I'm not Peter Parrish.
Yeah, we know.
Just thought
We did this in episode something. Yeah, well, good to let people know that anyway. Let's start with big news of the day, which is that Irrational Games is effectively no more. It's been turned into a small team and Ken Levine that's going to have a different name, and everyone else is effectively being laid off, or possibly subsumed into other parts of Take-Two, or farmed out to other third-party studios or something. So yeah, the guys who made System Shock 2 and Bioshock, all the Bioshocks and Freedom Force and I think SWAT 4 probably, are no longer going to be operating as we know it, which is a kind of a surprise actually. Out of nowhere, a bit sudden.
You say this, though it is probably worth pointing out there are still 15 people there, I think, which is reasonable for a... If you think about small development teams, that's quite a few, and as for System Shock and Freedom Force and so on, I have a sneaking suspicion quite a few of those people probably left in the intervening years anyway, because it's been, 15 years since the studio started? I mean,
Yes.
we've talked to John Shea and so on and so forth, so we know at least a few people who did previously leave.
That is true. I mean, it's the name that is going. It's a kind of a thing in this industry that people get attached to the company names, but don't necessarily know that the developers have long since moved on. I'm thinking of Call of Duty with Infinity Ward, for example.
Infinity Ward and Respawn with Titanfall now. I've read Ken Levine's little message on the Irrational website explaining why this all happened. I'm sure that there is more to it than this. I'm sure that there is a side of this that we aren't seeing, but I can't really read that as any other way than Ken Levine wanted to leave Irrational to sort of form a small startup studio. Sorry, I'm being distracted by Paul standing up and rustling and pulling up his pants.
It's good that he's pulling up his pants. We want that.
Yeah, that's better than the alternative. I don't know. I read it as Ken Levine wanted to leave and start up a smaller studio, work on smaller games. He went to the higher-ups and basically said this, and they said, tell you what, how about we keep you and we just fire everyone else and turn Irrational into the small studio that you want? And he said, okay.
Yay for firing everybody.
As I say, I'm positive that there is more to it than that, but reading what little information is there, that's kind of how it comes across. Am I wrong? Do you guys see something different from it?
I feel like if I was at Irrational and I was one of the people being let go, I would feel a bit like he's kind of secured himself a nice little earner for him and his mates and told all of us to fuck off and being a bit unhappy about that.
See, for me, that's the frustrating thing about it for me, because although he's the sort of the figurehead of the studio, it's never one guy that makes a game. It's never one guy that makes a game a success. It's everybody. No. It's the whole team. It's the talent, the artists, the sound guys, everything. So
that's pretty clear with something like Bioshock, I think, where basically every element of it is pitch perfect. Yeah, you're entirely right. I don't know. I just, considering the fact that he sort of suggested that he wanted to leave and start up his own studio anyway, I don't know. This really does just seem kind of financial incentive based, perhaps. I don't know. It just seems quite callous and cold.
It's called looking after number one, Tim.
I mean,
that's the thing. I mean, from what he said, he actually wanted to leave initially, and they convinced him to stay.
Which usually means money, pretty much. I mean, I suppose I was thinking about it more before we started podcasting, and I mean, Bioshock Infinite took a long time to make, longer than perhaps it was supposed to. It's been in development for about 5 years, I think. Had a massive team, probably had a pretty big budget, and I think sold pretty well, but perhaps didn't recoup its costs just due to how long it took to develop. I mean, this is a roundabout way of saying I don't think 2K and Take-Two would have let Irrational go had they just made a big fat profit with Bioshock Infinite, which suggests to me that perhaps they did not. I mean, one upside to this, there's no upside to people losing their jobs, but the upside in a general industry sense is that like there's a lot of studios who have massive teams, massive advertising budgets, and then need to sell an absurd amount of copies to recoup that cost, which is a model that apparently doesn't really work unless you're Call of Duty. We've kind of seen that with Tomb Raider and stuff, where it took like, I don't know, I think only recently they said Tomb Raider became moderately profitable, which is good. But,
was that before or after they sort of worked on and released the definitive edition out of interest?
Well, yeah, exactly. Is it because they kind of were able to milk it a little bit more? And,
but the flip side, how much did the definitive edition cost them to do?
A good question. These are the kind of figures that we never really get to see, unfortunately.
I mean, that is part of it, but do you remember the figures that Square Enix had, the amount of copies that they expected to sell? And it was something like, 3 times higher than any actual sane individual would have expected.
Yeah. It was, I mean, this version sold more than any other Tomb Raider already had, and yet they still wanted it to sell about 3 times as much as that, which, But what they're saying there is that we need it to sell this much for the development costs to be recovered, which suggests to me, that the model doesn't really work because you can't ever get those sales really. Although, as I say, it is supposedly slightly profitable now, which is good news.
There is one big downside to that, though.
What's that?
With the console toys being much easier to cross-develop for with the PC now, pretty much every game that can conceivably come out on PC will be developed first and foremost for the console toys.
Mm-hmm.
Because that totally wasn't happening over the past 10 years anyway.
No, because like in interviews and stuff, people always said, no, we're considering the PC version really seriously. And then Borderlands UI happened and we realised that was a lie.
Oblivion's UI, Skyrim's UI.
The Defiance UI, my god! That keeps me awake at night still.
How many podcasts has it been since we last brought up Defiance?
I know, I've been very good.
Doesn't one of us have a wall chart somewhere?
Keeping track. And it's been it's 5 or 6 at least. Yeah. So, I suppose it now remains to be seen what Ken Levine and his little team now get up to. I mean, in theory, I like his narrative-driven, replayable game idea. Hopefully it doesn't mean mobile games, otherwise I'm going to kill him and then myself. Hopefully it means PC games.
This is all actually just a PR stunt for Bioshock Mobile.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what the team produces. There are clearly talented people still at Irrational, and Irrational to make not as many as there used to be. And Irrational
it's not going to be called Irrational anymore, though, is it? It's going to be something else.
Rational
games.
Which is why they're developing for mobile. This explains everything. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I'm looking forward to seeing what they produce anyway. I have reasonably high expectations, but I just can't really look at this without seeing Ken Levine in a pretty bad light, which I suspect is simply due to the omission of information.
You're actually... I know what's going inside your head. You're actually picturing Ken Levine in the middle of a big bank vault with showers of dollars just pouring onto him.
No, I'm kind of not. The money aspect of this isn't really what's occurred to me. It's just more the firing of people.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of people outside the bank vault going, "Please, Mr. Levine, can we have some of your money?" And it's like, "No, get into the streets with you. Go beg in the streets for your money now."
We're such cynical bastards.
I'm also looking forward to what some of the former Irrational people, some of the people who've been let go today, get up to, because they'll no doubt end up at indie developers and their own companies and maybe doing Kickstarters and all the rest of it. So
yeah, by and large, they are tremendously talented people. I strongly suspect that they will find work quite quickly if Anywhere is hiring.
hopefully.
With a bit of luck, they will land on their feet.
Let's move on from that to another blockbuster idea that came out last week, which was Steam tagging, which was released to a rapturous reception. It went very well. It had been brilliantly thought out, and it's working perfectly. That's true, isn't it?
That's exactly what happened.
It is. Can I just say, what absolute fuckwit at Valve thought, oh no, let's let people put anything they want on somebody's game page.
No, with a really strong sense of humour.
It censored swear words. Well, it censored some swear words.
So, yeah.
Yes.
You can put in, for instance, Jews did World Trade Center, but you can't put in shit yet.
Yeah, so it's fine, you see.
Yeah, absolutely. They really thought this out.
I was pretty sure it was working pretty well though when I loaded up Steam, and it has now a sort of suggested tags for you, and I looked at that and it just said functional toilet. I thought, yeah, this is the system working as intended. Now I can find all of those games. It knows that whenever there's a bathroom in a game, I do test the toilet. That's true, by the way. I will actually do that in a game.
I can believe that.
It knows. It also gave me short games with toilets in. Apparently, what I need to specialise in.
This does sound about right for you, actually, based on what
I thought so. Yeah.
Did it not bring up Toilet Simulator? There is a toilet simulator, isn't there?
There actually is.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think it's on Steam though.
No, I don't think it is. So. Yeah.
No, I think there are a few games that have been aptly tagged. Functional toilet. Deus Ex Invisible War is tagged with functional toilet, and that is pretty much my opinion of the game and the whole. So, yeah, I'm quite looking forward to seeing if recommended tags for me include things like indie trash, which is another tag that I've seen pop up quite a lot. Let's have a look actually. What tags are recommended for me? Indie action roguelike RPG free to play.
What an insult.
Really?
I also had the action one, which is probably the least useful tag for video games ever. I mean, really.
So what have they done now?
One of the other tags recommended for me, other than zombies and sports, which is quite an unusual one, and MOBA, which is odd because the only MOBA I've played is Dota. Procedural Death Labyrinth.
See, that's a good tag. I mean, it generated some really good ones, but it did come with quite a few problems, as we've touched on, that you could just abuse developers and their games without recourse for any kind of comeback.
It's changed now, though, hasn't it? I think the developers have to approve them or something now.
You can, yeah. Well, basically, the majority of the offensive ones have kind of vanished. So I think, yeah, there's some sort of voting system in place. Or you can kind of add and remove them as a developer, I think. Derek Smart, by the way, was going into a full-on meltdown about these tags on the forums for some of his games and on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, I actually think he read your article, Tim, because he tweeted. He responded to your article.
Really?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I missed that.
There you
go. That's fine. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, tangentially, by the way, the guy who made Gone Home, Steve Gaynor, I think, from Fulbright, has he murdered someone or touched some kids or something? Because that's the only thing that I can rationalize the kind of vitriol that he gets is if he did one of those two things. The Gone Home page after these tags came in was like a fucking war zone. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's probably just because Gone Home is one of the most divisive.
It really is.
Word product rather than game. Interactive entertainment things.
I mean, it
yeah,
still has the walking simulator tag on it, which I think is fair. Because DayZ also has the walking simulator tag, which I think is quite fair as well.
yeah, I don't know. It is just one of those ones that's incredibly divisive. Like, it's held up as being kind of the epitome of storytelling, short indie games with no combat and violence and horror. And on the other hand, you've got the people who just like the blood and violence and gore and action. And so, as far as they're concerned, it's not
fine. Which is fine. It's
just everybody kind of trying to push their opinions onto everybody else, which is obviously very stupid because only my opinions are correct.
Well, exactly, mine too. It was also quite funny that when the tags started being kind of altered and Valve got a bit of a handle on it, that you got some of the like free speech tourists coming in going, "Oh, I'm not being allowed to say exactly what I want to say." Yeah, you know what? A day ago, there wasn't such a thing as Steam tags. This isn't your free speech rights being like eroded. You've had this for like 24 hours, man, and now it's
you've had it for 24 hours. You've had it for 24 hours and you fucked it up so badly they've had to restrict
it's
it.
been taken away from you.
They should have just put a thing on the front of the Steam page saying, "This is why you can't have nice things." Just put that on it.
Do you think that this is actually just some sort of social experiment that Valve were taking?
Probably.
I think a lot of their ideas are basically social experiments now. So yeah, I don't know. It's settled down a bit now, and we've mostly got the good funny tags are still out there. So I'm relatively happy with where it's at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, likewise. Actually, I occasionally browse, but I haven't seen anything monstrously stupid or offensive. For the most part, they are actually fairly descriptive of the game. A few of them, like Procedural Death Labyrinth, are fairly amusing, but still useful.
But really good, yeah. So I don't know. So maybe Valve got it right after all. No, they didn't.
As with everything else Valve do, it took several iterations before it got should have been before they put it in place.
Yeah, indeed. All right, more news. I'm kind of mindful that we're on a slight time deadline this week.
How long have we got, Peter? Do we need a sort of 24 style clock?
We've got about half an hour remaining, so I'm going to talk about Harmonix's weird musical multiplayer shooter thing because I'm still not completely convinced it exists. I was very tired yesterday when I read about this and kept reading things and going, "Am I seeing this? Is this happening? What does this mean?"
Peter, I would like you to explain to me what this is and how it works.
Okay, well, Harmonix, of course, famous for their music rhythm games, have decided that they're going to do a free-to-play multiplayer arena shooter for the PC, and they're going to sort of combine the natural rhythm of a multiplayer arena shooter with the rhythm that you find in music, so that, for example, if you jump on the downbeat of a song that's playing during the match, you'll be able to jump higher and further, and to fire your gun you'll have to do some sort of a rhythm action game and things.
Did someone accidentally slip LSD into the Harmonix staff canteen food?
See,
Yes.
this game would be absolutely no good for me because basically when I'm playing some sort of an action shooter game, I'm usually dead. So I'd just be lying there on the bass notes, just going, "Oh."
That's what they need. They need the ability for you to make your corpse twitch in time to the music. You spawn faster if you do that.
Yes, perfect. I think the levels are supposed to change as the song like reaches crescendos and stuff. I don't know. It's pretty vague, man. I read some previews and it was vague stuff. And most of the previews ended not unexpectedly with, "Well, I tried to play this, but because the skills of a first-person shooter and the skills of rhythm action games are so separate and disparate, I found this pretty fucking difficult to play." We're reading between the lines, that's pretty much what they said, which is what I would expect. I mean, it looks intriguing as hell and pretty hilarious to try and play, but I don't know. I don't know. whether I'm going to be able to align the necessary parts of my brain required for both of these things into the same space to make it work.
I want to give it a go. I'm curious as to both how it actually plays and how well I would function within it.
Yeah.
It seems like the sort of thing. I mean, it's two genres that I am reputedly quite good at combined. So that's
so you'll be amazing at this.
You'd
maybe.
think so. I've got a feeling that will actually just mean that the skills in this are entirely separate from both of those, and it's going to be a catastrophe for me.
Oh well, we know who's going to be reviewing it then.
I want us all to. Why don't we need to do gamers plays on this?
God!
It's a prime plays candidate, and then
Well,
we can fight about what music we use.
We can only do an in-gamers plays on it if the voice chat that we have going is also set up with auto-tune.
Yes.
Well, I think for music it has to be Napalm Death, because I'd love to see Tim trying to rhythm action that.
I want some Sisters of Mercy, some of their slower numbers, so that I don't have to run around that much. This is called Chroma, by the way. I don't think we ever actually mentioned what it was called.
No, we didn't. Although if you actually Google for Chroma game, you will discover that there is an indie game of the same name. However, that's something to bother anybody.
About light bulbs and stuff.
Yeah.
It looked like a very indie game. Not using that as a pejorative, just to say.
The sort of thing that you wouldn't find sold in a shop.
Yeah, pretty much. The sort of thing that can only exist thanks to Steam and downloadable distribution and stuff like that, which is great. I'm very happy.
Except unless you go back 30 years and it's the sort of thing you would find on floppy disks down the market.
Yeah. Like our copy of GTA 5 for the PC that we found and reviewed. Alright, very quickly, EA gave away Dungeon Keeper through GOG to say sorry for their reportedly utterly atrocious mobile version of Dungeon Keeper, which seems to make you wait about 6 hours to mine like 2 blocks of earth, which sounds incredible.
Unless you pay money.
Yeah, well, of course, unless you pay money.
Hang on, stop the press. This is a mobile game we're talking about, isn't it?
Well, tangentially, I just...
Well, if we're going to talk about mobile games, I'm going to talk about fucking Flappy Birds then. This is a bloody PC podcast.
Yes, the point we're making is that this is why the free PC version of Dungeon Keeper was made free for a period of time.
Oh, that's a very, very, very thin link there.
Because it's the good one. You should get that one, and don't touch the mobile one, because it's trash.
Good free games for PC. This is not something we want to talk about on our podcast. I understand.
Yeah, okay, I'll let you off.
No, we finished now. We've done that. And I'm now going to defer to Tim to talk about La Mulana 2 and Curry.
Yay. La Mulana 2 got funded. I'm extraordinarily happy about this, because La Mulana 1 is an utterly sublime game. The easiest way of summing it up really is to say it's Dark Souls the Metroidvania, except that where Dark Souls kills you over and over, this kills you over and over, and kills your brain in real life. Because it's also very thinky and obtuse.
You made me play the demo. You play the demo.
You play the demo.
You did.
I said that you should play it, and you said, yes, I plan to do so already.
Oh, alright. I suppose
At gunpoint.
A more truthful version of events, I suppose.
Yeah. What did you think about bearing in mind that you haven't actually played the original?
I can see the Dark Souls comparison. I mean, I was very quickly sort of opening little shortcuts through the level in a kind of a Dark Souls fashion. You know, like you kind of battled through quite a lengthy bit, and then it rewards you by going, oh, you can open up this door now, and so now you can get back there quite easily. And I died a lot, so that's quite similar to Dark Souls.
It's like Dark Souls, it's also got fairly obtuse controls at first, at least. The jumping in particular.
I also found a massive dragon who killed me, and then I kind of read up on it a bit, and apparently you can't even kill the dragon in the demo, and that felt a bit Dark Souls as well, that they would put a massive...
Where was this massive dragon? I think I missed this massive dragon.
This up at the top. There's a massive dragon called Nidhogg.
I think I missed that. I found the boss, or rather I found the room where the boss will presumably appear, and as soon as I smashed the Ankh Jewel to make it appear, it goes, "Thank you for playing La Mulana 2."
That's weird. Well, I found a big dragon thing, and he beat the shit out of me, and then it turns out I couldn't kill him anyway. So
Are you sure you were playing the right game, Peter?
fairly sure. Maybe I just played Dark Souls again by accident.
Peter's downloaded something else.
I'm willing to believe you. That is a very Lama Lana thing to do, and the demo is also full of little areas and things that aren't implemented yet. I mean, there are, I think, 2 or 3 connections to other areas which you can't actually go through, which have little signs outside them saying, "Yeah, we need to keep some stuff back for the actual full version."
No, I quite liked it. I found the jump control a little fiddly, but I think that's just because I'm unfamiliar with it, and it's got quite a lot of finesse to it that I haven't really figured out yet.
It is incredibly fiddly, but that's
Okay.
that's kind of part of the charm. I cannot count the number of times, because I haven't played Lama Lana in quite a while. And yes, I did quite a lot of jumping into spikes in this demo.
Yeah.
Until the old skills kind of came back to me, and I finally remembered the best way of doing things like that. Pro tip: jump straight up in the air, and then you can actually control your jump with left and right.
Alright. Well, since we've got like 20 minutes now, keeping up with the countdown, shall we move on to talking about Titanfall, which I hear is some sort of
Titanfall.
Titanfallen.
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein? Oh,
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein, Titanfall.
Yeah, man, this is a really obscure and terrible and self-indulgent in-joke, but in the preceding email before this podcast, where I kind of lay out what we might talk about, I was very tired. I decided to call Titanfall Tottenfall, as the Germans might call it, and then Tim tells me that's a very literal translation of that is dead wrong. So without realizing it, I was kind of doing quite a good German joke.
Yeah, it was a very good bilingual joke.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of our listeners that also speak German will either appreciate that or tell me that my translation is wrong. So thanks for that.
Well, you did say it was a very kind of clunky, literal Google Translate style.
Yeah.
Anyway, this game.
It's quite good.
It's quite good, isn't it? I was quite surprised. I was all ready to start hating this, AAA behemoth shooter that's gonna propel the Xbox One into the stratosphere or whatever.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I fucking hate it.
You've only played the tutorial.
Nope. Played for an hour and a half last night.
Oh, you have? Okay.
So you haven't even gotten through the tutorial then?
We've got dissenting opinions. This is good.
No, I don't. I'm joking. I don't fucking hate it, but I don't think it's brilliant.
Well, I mean, look, I don't think it's like gonna revolutionize gaming for the next 20 years or anything. But
it is one of the most enjoyable multiplayer shooters I've played for a while. I would go that far.
I would say that, although I mean, I have quite a low bar for these because I don't really like them. So, but the fact that I actually quite enjoyed this is a good sign. Let's talk about what we did and didn't like then. I kind of like the whole. I'm going to assume people are pretty vaguely familiar with what Titanfall is.
It's a multiplayer. It's a multiplayer shooter where you shoot people and you've got double jumping and wall running, and after a while you can call down a big stompy death robot.
Yes, you can.
Jump in it and do that.
I like the wall running and the mobility. I like the kind of jetpacks. It's not a full-on mental jetpack like Tribes. It's just a kind of a double jump boost kind of thing. So you get a bit more vertical control. I like the kind of asymmetric conflicts that arise when a few people have some Titans and you might or you might not, and you might opt to stay as a foot soldier pilot guy, because you have quite a few options for taking Titans down still as a normal guy, including jumping on top of them, which is the most hilarious way of doing it, where you kind of hang on and rip open the battery pack and then unload your clip into them and jump off again, which is very cool and enjoyable.
I accidentally did that while I had a rocket launcher equipped, and I blew myself up. I leapt onto a Titan, ripped open the top of it, aimed my rocket launcher in at point blank range, and fired.
Also funny.
Yes. Mostly because I didn't realise that you could actually use your anti-Titan weapon while on the Titan. I assumed it was just going to switch me back to my pistol.
Nope. So those bits are good. Would you agree, Paul? Did you like those aspects of it to any extent?
I like the sort of jetpacky wall running type stuff. I think the movement is really fluid, and I think that's been really, really well done. I'm actually not so keen, and this isn't actually because I'm not keen on the Titans. I think the Titans are good. What I'm not keen on is the way the Titans work in the game modes that are with the game. I still find that it's just a matter of, no matter what game mode it is, you just feel like you're just running around shooting shit for the sake of it. I don't feel there's the urgency of an objective. There's just nothing new there for me. I think.
Did you play either the mode where you have to capture points or the one where you just get a Titan and that's it?
Yeah, I played both. The capture point thing, I'm just sick of the guy going, "Oh, we've just lost A, go back to A, go back to B, we've just lost B, oh, A's gone again, go back." Yeah, that's all well and cool, but it actually becomes a bit tiresome after a while, to be perfectly honest. It's not. You mentioned. Sorry, Tim.
Did you consider defending one of the points instead of just...
Yeah, but it's the same thing. You still got this nice South African chap going, go, get back to A, get back to B.
I did like that he was South African.
Yeah, I did. That was cool.
Why.
That's the best bit about it for me.
That worked for me.
But it's not... You mentioned Tribes earlier, and what Tribes did really well was, although you were still playing the same game mode, it kind of... You really felt like you were making a difference and doing something, and you had a role within your team. And there hasn't been many games since that has really given that level of cohesiveness in a shooter. I think this kind of just falls into the same old Battlefield type runabout shooting shit with not really caring too much about having to really work together.
I would agree with that, though I think that it's kind of unfair to compare it to Tribes, if only because Tribes is pretty much an RTS played out in first person without an actual RTS involved. I mean, there are so many different classes, vehicles, bits and pieces
there was
that.
But there was only 3 classes, I think, in Tribes. There was heavy, light, and medium. It wasn't like you had...
Yeah, all of which had a selection of various different weapons, add-ons that they could equip.
Which you have here in Titanfall, because you have different loadouts. You can customise your loadout and so on. But it's
probably worth pointing out at this point that in the beta, the actual amount that you can customise is really limited.
But it's not...
I mean, there's only the one Titan in there. There's only a couple of... I think there's like 2 grenades, 2 bits of equipment, 2 perks for each slot.
I mean, also, strategically, you can obviously bring your Titan down and get it to follow you, and it basically uses this AI to take out and you can use it as a decoy effectively and come round and take the... Yeah. That's cool, but that's not much else it can do other than that, except having big robot battles in the middle. It just kind of... I think it's a really nice... I think it's a nice quirk. I think it's the catch that the game has, but ultimately, I don't know whether it's going to be enough that would keep me playing it for super long periods of time, unlike where I played Tribes for years on end, and basically...
I felt I was kind of carving my... I mean, you're saying that there aren't so many like defined roles or something. I felt I was kind of carving out my own roles, like by not calling the Titan down immediately, because I thought I could be more useful now jumping on other enemy Titans and rodeoing them, or using the missile launcher and popping out of buildings. I'm going to play that role. But
that's what I mean about the Titan kind of feeling like the hook. It's kind of the side thing. If it wasn't in the game, it would still be probably quite a good shooter without it. And because I think the wall running, the movement, and all that stuff's great. I just think it would be better to have something else other than a big stomping robot.
I think there may well be a sort of no Titans mode eventually. I can see that happening, honestly, where people just do pilot action.
In terms of the carving out your role, there are lots of different ways you can do it. One game, I basically took a cloaking device and a sniper rifle and went and sat up on the rooftops.
So you're one of those.
Not so much camping, no, because I've got shit accuracy. I was mostly just keeping an eye on the friendly Titans, and whenever anyone attempted to rodeo onto them, I was shooting. So I was kind of playing Titan defense role.
No, actually, no. I must say, the best thing about the game is the auto-aiming pistol. That is
excellent.
That is brilliant. I love that, because I'm shit at aiming.
I do really like that pistol.
I mean, I saw some complaints about the auto-aiming pistol, but I don't see it myself because it does take a long time to lock on to like actual people. You know, it has to get like 3 or 4 locks on someone before you can kill them in a single shot. And
it's 3 locks, I think, and each lock seems to take about a second, and it's fairly short-ranged as well.
It's great for taking out the AI people who are terrible, obviously. It's just there to make you feel good about yourself.
It's just so stylish to use, though, where you just have like 3 AI people sat there crouching down, and all of a sudden you just get a little blip, 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 and then you click once, now dunk.
That's another thing as well. Let's quickly talk about the AI and stuff, because one of the big things before release was this, there's a X player, 6 player limit, or whatever it was that we're putting on. And they said, don't worry, because it's augmented by Titans and AI and that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think the AI should be there at all?
I like the presence of the AI. They don't seem to have much of an impact on the game, but I don't really mind that. They help make everything feel very busy and active. It feels like being in a war front.
Would it not be better, though, just to shove a couple more real players in?
Possibly, but I think part of it is kind of the fact that it's almost intimate with that small number of players. It's not like Battlefield where you've got sort of 30 people on a team. You've got 60 people on the server, and it's kind of hard to actually feel like you're making any impact. With so few players, it does feel like you are contributing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I find the AI thing kind of a bit annoying and a bit confusing, to be perfectly honest. I know they're really obvious because they just stand around like a bunch of gibbons, but it's kind of like I just kind of find it a bit irritating, to be honest. I'd rather they weren't there.
Why?
I don't see the requirement.
You think it should just be killing other players to lower the Titan drop timer rather than killing the AI?
I don't see the point in it. I really don't.
I think it feels to me like a very faint nod to Dota 2 style mechanics, where you are sort of farming up some creeps to get closer to your special ability, which is effectively the Titan. I'm not saying it's 1 for 1 the same mechanic, but it feels like a little bit of a nod towards that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, I'd rather it wasn't there and they just changed the. Like, just had a countdown timer on the thing, not on the Titan drop ability thing.
I don't know, I don't agree with that. I really like their presence. I can't put my finger on why, though.
Because they're easy to kill, Tim.
Well, there is that. But I don't know, I think it's just more...
Feel nice.
I think it's just more the way they kind of add to the setting more than anything. And it's nice being able to actually see people and not immediately get shot.
Is it? Did anyone think the game was a bit brown?
It's very brown. It's also very orange and blue.
It's quite
I wasn't that inspired by it visually. Put it that way.
I like the fact that you can play as a lady character. That makes a nice change.
It does, yes. It is a nice change. I mean, map-wise, we've only got 2 in the beta. I liked that they seemed designed for the sort of verticality stuff. The look of them. I prefer the one where it's kind of like a ruined, bombed-out type place to the to Angel City. I think is the other one. That one seemed very grey. I prefer the other one. It had a bit of grass on it.
Visually, I'd agree, but I prefer playing Angel City for whatever reason. I do want to give them props for map design, actually, because when you've got to balance the map so that it has to work when you're in a Titan and when you're on foot as well,
and when you're up high.
The map design is clever. Those 2 maps do work really well, both of them.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that. Any of that. I just kind of think, to me, it's still just playing out like the same old shooter.
I would counter that in one way, which is you said that the hook to you was the Titan, and obviously it is because it's in the name and everything, but I don't know, to me it's more the mobility than anything. It's been a while since we've had a shooter that affords, a popular shooter in particular, that affords a huge amount of mobility.
Don't get me wrong, Tim, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that point. The point is, it would still probably be a good game without the bloody robots dropping out the sky.
Yeah, and you're probably right, but I don't know. I don't have any problem with the giant robots dropping out of the sky. I quite like them.
I like the concept of it. I just wish there was more. There was more of a role. I don't know. You said you like to carve out your own role, and that's cool. But I hate comparing games to other games. But if I
wish it was Tribes.
Sorry.
You wish it was Tribes.
No, I don't wish it was Tribes, but because I like everything about the mobility and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I want big ski jumps or anything. That's not what I want. I think
I do want some ski jumps,
but it works. It works well. But the thing with Tribes was you kind of felt that you had. You kind of felt you were working with people, and if you didn't work with people, then you would fail miserably. With this, I couldn't have cared whether the other players were doing anything or not in the game. I didn't really pay much attention to what they were doing, and that to me doesn't make a great team-based shooter.
You might see more of that in whatever the campaign-ish mode ends up being, where there is going to be some sort of narrative-ish, I mean, I imagine it is going to devolve down to, like, capture this point, get your Titan and go here, do this, whatever, because, well, of course, that's what quest objectives are in video games, but that might be more, necessitate more team play and more sticking to different roles and stuff. We don't know. We don't know, because they haven't really said anything about it.
I would partially agree with what you said, Hall. I think that might change if you're either playing with other people. I mean, I do want to do a game with the three of us on the same team, just to see how that functions. Because, I mean, there's only 6 players aside, as you mentioned, which does mean that it shouldn't be too difficult for most people to actually fill up most of a team with just them and people they want to play with.
Well, whoever.
Likewise, it'll probably help a bit when things like text chat are actually implemented.
Well, whoever ends up as the other 3 players in our game are fucked.
They're going to be like, wow, these guys... Either these guys are working really well together, or who are these clowns?
Just for God's sake, just make sure you haven't got Ink Gamers in your names anywhere.
Representing our quality talent, yes. Alright, well, we are kind of running out of time a little bit, so...
I want to add one closing remark, which is this. Sure. Normally with multiplayer shooters, if I don't have to play them, I don't. The exceptions are things like Battlefield, which I do quite enjoy. Most of them I tend to skip, but with this, even though it's a beta, I've actually been dipping in and out of it all weekend. And normally these are the sorts of things that I only play with people I know. I've just been playing this with randoms, and I've been thoroughly enjoying myself. So for whatever reason, it does seem to have clicked with me.
Yeah, I must admit I was shouting bastard, fucker, and everything else for about an hour and a half last night at 3 in the morning. So I guess it's doing something right.
Yeah. Oh man, I am sick of kill cams though. They can just fuck up forever. I don't want to see how some dickhead killed me. Fuck you. I just want to respawn again.
Actually, I will challenge that. I do like how they are very anti-camping. I remember playing multiplayer for Medal of Honor, the recent re-release that wasn't Door Fighter. And yeah, that had no kill cam, and so you would just repeatedly die because some utter cunt had found somewhere to hide because he knew the map like the back of his hand.
No,
fair point.
They should have the kill cam, but they should have it automated so that basically if they view it back, it just shows your character going at them as you die. I'm gift flipping the bird, by the way, so they can just see you going like that.
Yeah. Basically doing something offensive back towards them. Yeah, that'd be good. Alright, so we're going to have a joint preview of Titanfall going up probably tomorrow or today, whenever this podcast goes out. I don't know what day it is. Shut up, leave me alone. We've got already a Banished review that you wrote, Paul, and some Banished videos that you've been doing. You're doing quite well. What else? I did a preview of a game called Cloud Built, which by coincidence also has wall running in it, so I played 2 wall running based games in quick succession, which is quite unusual. What else do we have up here that I've completely forgotten about? We have more Elder Scrolls preview stuff. Tim, you looked at the PvP and more single player stuff, I guess.
Do you know what the best thing I've played this week is?
What's that?
Not Elder Scrolls Online.
Anything else? Okay, good. What else? Oh, we had an article slagging off the Steam tags, which is kind of come and gone in relevance, I suppose. But you can read that as well.
If you want to find out what Steam tags were like when they first
Yeah.
a nice historical retrospective. It's like something that BBC4 would do.
Yeah, with Danny
Exactly.
Baker.
Danny Baker presents Steam tags.
Oh, I've got to tell you something before we go. Last, because this is important. Everybody, listen up, pay attention. That's you, listeners. Yesterday we changed the way the site functions completely. And previously, if you had an account on the site and you were posting, please note that you will have to recreate a new account because we've unhooked the site now from our very old forum system, which we've had. I mean, it's been there for actually probably over a decade, dare I say it, with some of the same usernames. But now we allow you to log in with Steam, Twitter, Facebook, Google, your auntie's underwear, whatever you want, and so if you can now register that way, or even better, register yourself an account on the site now. Now this is kind of like phase one of some of the stuff that we're adding to the site, and it's going to be more, make sure that we can cater for all you lovely PC gamers. So if you have got an account, or you had an account as of yesterday, and you're trying to log in and it's not working, that's because you will need to re-register a new account or go in live on the social networks, but it's probably better if you just register yourself a new account. So that's live now, and it's all on all the commenting and everything, so do that if you are a regular. Whew. And
Yes.
yeah, just to say that we did have some spare Titanfall keys as well that we actually gave away on the Facebook page over the weekend. So if you haven't been checking stuff like Facebook and Twitter, fool you, because you didn't get a Titanfall key because there was some there. So do keep checking Facebook and Twitter as well.
Yes, excellent. Great. You said all the things that I was normally going to have to say. Now I don't have to. I can just say that we'll be back again with another podcast. Same time next week. Goodbye.
Totenfallen! Bye!